Hey everybody, it's Noah from Figure This Customs, back with another action figure video. Today I was thinking back at how wild and crazy this year was. How it felt like the world could have ended at any moment for a multitude of different reasons. Not limited to, of course, a global pandemic changing society and culture as we knew it, and a very tense political climate where you didn't know who to trust and what to believe and what was true or not. And of course, the craziest thing of all, McFarlane Toys releasing articulated action figures. Today we're going to be doing a countdown top 10 McFarlane Toys action figures of 2020. And this should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is my personal list. So it's going to have some more subjective opinion and some more of my personal favorites rank higher over other objectively good figures. Okay, so if your favorite figure is not on my top 10, please let me know down below in the comments what that figure is and what you love about it so much. I really do love to hear what you guys have to say. And I know that not everybody is such a big fan of McFarlane Toys. Not everybody likes the figures that are coming out recently. However, I will ask the comments to remain civil. I think there is enough room in the collecting community for all of us. I'm not saying anyone has to like something, and I'm definitely not saying anyone has to hate something. But I do ask that everyone just be civil and be kind and be nice, because that is when the community works at its best. When we all come together around things that we love and just talk about how great they are. With that out of the way, let's jump into the top 10 McFarlane figures of 2020. And here we are in the light box with not my top 10, but the runners-up. The figures that I got, the extras, the leftovers, whatever you want to call it. Just some really cool figures that I wanted to talk about before I move on to the actual top 10. So let's get this guy out of the way right here. This Joker is just fine. It's nothing spectacular, but it is a comic book Joker. So until we get something better, this is what we got. It's a fine enough figure, but not making it on the top 10. Next, we have this Batman figure. This is actually one of the better Batmans that McFarlane Toys has released. This one is customized. I replaced the head that was on the original figure with a Greg Capullo sculpt from the DC Collectibles Designer Series. I love the sculpts on those figures, and I think they look absolutely perfect to the source material. I painted the underside of the cape purple. I love how he looks with all the battle damage and stuff. I decided to just kind of go with like a dark gray, because that was actually present on some of the figure already, just to kind of show he has like maybe an undersuit, maybe some like Kevlar under there or something, just to kind of accentuate the sculpt. Also took some silver and just dry brushed that kind of into the crevices, cracks on the belt, and things like that, just to bring it out a little bit more. I think it looks a lot better now, but he can't really make it on the top 10 because I've modified him a little too much. And yeah, but still, overall a good figure, and I'm glad I have it. Next we have Azrael Batman. This Batman is really cool. I think it's McFarlane Toys at its best when they do really intricate sculpts, lots of layers, lots of sharp, pointy things, lots of pouches. You know, it's just, I think I'll be customizing this a little bit, adding a little bit more blue to it, see what I can do with that. But yeah, really cool figure, but not on the top 10 for this year. And then we'll look at this guy next. This is the McFarlane Toys Jack Napier body with a Greg Capullo Designer Series James Gordon head. I don't know who I saw do this first on Instagram, but I saw somebody do it and I stole the idea. Credit to whoever it is out there that I saw do it. It's a really clever idea, and I honestly love it now because the Jack Napier body is really neat. It's, you know, tactical, it's slim, it's not like a superhero build or anything, and the skin tones match pretty well until we get a official McFarlane Toys Commissioner Gordon figure. This is going to be my Gordon on the bat shelf, so that's pretty cool. I'm really happy with how this turned out. But again, I've kind of changed it into something else, so we'll take him off the list. And then the Batman Who Laughs. I collected actually all of the DC Dark Knight's metal figures. I bought all of them, with the exception of the Drowned, as she hadn't come out yet. But yeah, I definitely wanted to get the Batman Who Laughs. He's just such a cool design, such a freaky character. I just had to have one. And get of course, the Crow Jokerized Robins. And these guys aren't making it on the top 10 for just a couple of reasons. One, just because they're all good figures, but to own any of them, you have to own all of them. On their own, they really do feel like they're lacking. Together is really what you want. Once they're all together, it's a beautiful set, and it's absolute gold. Again, I really love this display piece. This is just something that I really did want. It's very statuesque. It's very, very appealing, really catches your eye, and McFarlane Toys really killed it with these figures. But for all those reasons I listed, none of these are going to be on the top 10. Let's get into the actual top 10 McFarlane figures. And kicking off our list in the number 10 spot, we have the McFarlane Toys Nightwing. This is the first release in blue, and this one has been modified, which is why he's a little lower on the list, and there's a couple other reasons as well, but yeah, this is a pretty awesome figure for the most part. Overall, I think it cuts the silhouette of Nightwing pretty well. It's slender, it's agile looking, it's got a pretty decent sculpt. The only things I don't like about it is that maybe the legs are a little skinny, and the arms are definitely too short. Honestly, I only ever pose him with the batons in hand, because if you have the batons out of his hands, it really highlights just how short his arms are. Also, I know a lot of people like the original head sculpt. I have always loved the DC Essentials Nightwing head sculpt, and so I just swapped that out, and I think it just makes him look absolutely stunning. So I really like it a lot now, but because I modified it and because he has the arms of a 13-year-old, he's going to start off our list at number 10. And taking to the number 9 spot, we have the Grim Knight Batman. This is a character that as soon as he came out in the comics, he exploded in popularity, and having the figure in hand, I can totally see why. He's got all these awesome sculpted pouches and gadgets and ammo clips and guns and everything. This figure really captures a lot of it very well. The only way that I modified this is that I did replace the head sculpt. I know that some people don't have a problem with it. I didn't care for it too much, so I replaced it with yet another Greg Capullo inspired DC Collectibles designer series. This was the James Gordon Batman head, and I think it just really makes this figure look really intimidating. But yeah, this is still a really good figure other than that head sculpt and having molded in gun holsters. That's the only things kind of holding this figure back for me on my list. But super awesome character, super awesome concept, and I think they totally nailed it with this release. And taking the number 8 spot, we have McFarlane Toys Superman. This is one of their earlier releases, but it's one that I think kind of gave a lot of people hope in the line. Again, there's some things that I would change about it. He came with a gripping hand that I just kind of super glued to make another fisted hand because he didn't come with 2 fists. I hate it when that happens. I also used some dull coat to dull down the hair. It was very glossy out of the box, so I just kind of sealed it to make it a little duller, a little more matte, which I like that. But those changes, again, kind of keep it a little lower on the list. And also, the single-jointed elbows are interesting. I don't mind single-jointed elbows on certain figures where it's unavoidable, maybe where they have really big biceps or just the sculpt doesn't allow it. This is not one of those cases. There are other figures from the McFarlane Toys line with arms just as big as this, maybe sometimes even bigger, that have double-jointed elbows, and so I don't know why they went with that decision. But overall, this is a really solid Superman figure, and I think one that everyone really should add to their collection if they're a Superman fan and fans of McFarlane Toys. At the number 7 spot, we have the McFarlane Toys Doomslayer from Doom Eternal. It kills me to put this guy so low on the list, but there are a couple of reasons that I feel I have to. Again, I think that McFarlane is at its best when they're doing intricate, detailed sculpts, because the sculpt on this guy is phenomenal. It is absolutely perfect in every detail. It's just outstanding to look at. And the paint that they put on this guy really helps highlight a lot of that sculpt. And it's funny that I praise the paint, because also, having started playing Doom Eternal and loving the absolute heck out of it, I can also say that the paint scheme is not accurate to the in-game model. I don't know if that's a case of, like, they were already producing the figure and didn't have, like, the full model yet to base off the paint, or if they just kind of skimped on it. There's a lot more colors that go into the Doomslayer's design. I think they kind of did, as impressive as it looks, again, it's not accurate, and it feels kind of like the bare minimum. And another thing, I have modified this, and I have added bicep swivels, because the original figure could not swivel his arms, really, at all. And so to get him to hold his super shotgun with both hands was just impossible. And so that was something I definitely wanted to mod, because he's always going to be holding his gun in 2 hands in most of the game, for the most part. So yeah, really glad that I modified that so he could do the 2-handed gun pose, but because I had to mod that, and because the paints aren't exactly accurate, even though this is one of my favorite figures of the year, honestly, and one that I really love, I'm going to have to keep him at the number 7 spot. And taking the number 6 spot, we have the McFarlane Toys White Knight Batman, based on the incredible art of Mr. Sean Murphy. I am a huge Sean Murphy fan, admittedly. He's probably my favorite artist in the business at this moment. I love everything he draws, and man, McFarlane Toys was able to capture his style so well. The over-exaggerated proportions, the strong, kind of solid chin, and like very animated, almost like animated series proportions, which is something that Sean Murphy talks about taking a lot of inspiration from. And yeah, they just really nailed this look, and I think it is like the best Batman that McFarlane Toys has done for the most part. It's not, again, it's like, in some ways it's like a normal-esque Batman. It's got the black and gray, but it is still technically like an alternate world, the alternate universe Batman, being from the White Knight universe created by Sean Murphy. So I'm hoping that one day McFarlane Toys will give us sort of a definitive main universe Batman as good as this one, because this one is absolutely stellar. So I think he really earns the 6th spot, and moving from here on out, we're going to see the figures that I really do have kind of no gripes with whatsoever. These are the ones I can kind of recommend wholeheartedly. And hitting right in the middle, we have in the number 5 spot, McFarlane Toys Flash. And I have him right now on a Mafex style stand just to show the awesome effects that he comes with. Unfortunately, he does not come with a stand of his own to make full use of these effects. But this is one of those few cases where the effects that come with the figure are something I actually want to display. Usually the effects are just like a nice add-on that you can kind of use for playability, but it's not usually something I always want to display my figures with. But these lightning effects particularly look absolutely stunning, and I really like the way that McFarlane implemented them. But even without the effects and stuff, I think this figure is one of McFarlane's best. The proportions on it are really, really good. The articulation is better than most, and I just think that if this is sort of the standard moving forward, so for some of the more popular Justice League type characters, then I think there's a bright future for McFarlane's DC offerings, because yeah, this Flash is really, really excellent. I'm super glad that I have this, and I hope that the rest of the Justice League is as good as this Flash. And at the number 4 spot, we have the Merciless, the God of War Batman from Dark Knight's Metal. Oh my gosh, there is just something about this figure that I cannot shake. It is just so incredible. Like I said earlier, I purchased all of the Dark Knight's Metal figures, and I had them all lined up, and I took some pictures, and I really enjoyed having them, but they just didn't stick around on my shelf. I sold most of them off. I kept a select few. Mainly the Batman Who Laughs and this guy. There was just something about this figure. There were so many points where I was like, I don't have any attachment to this. I just need to sell it, but I could not. It's just something that every time I look away from it and I look back to it, I'm impressed once again. I think this really is, again, McFarlane Toys at their best. Intricate, hardcore sculpts like this are just absolutely incredible in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. I really, really love the plastic that they chose for this guy, a very shimmering blue plastic, and they added some like silver dry brushing over most of it for to bring out some of the details in the armor. I love the glowing eye effect, kind of paint hue that they put around the eyes. It's just really cool. I love the sword and the sculpt on it and everything about it. Even taking into consideration it's a Build-A-Figure, right? Like, taking into consideration you have to buy these other figures to get this guy, I think it's worth it. This is one of my favorite figures of the year, admittedly. And honestly, it's actually cool to say that McFarlane Toys is making figures that I can say, these are some of my favorite figures of the year. And here we have, taking the number 3 spot, we have the McFarlane Toys Red Hood. Another figure that I just cannot look away from. Every time I look at it, it's just so impressive. And it's so incredible that this is a figure from McFarlane Toys, combining the aesthetic of McFarlane Toys sculpt and paint with a fully articulated, well-functioning body, honestly. This is one of their better articulated figures, and it's one of their better looking figures. He is the newest in my collection, I have to admit, so I'm trying not to let that sway me too much, but honestly, this guy could also be easily the #1 spot, for sure. He really is that impressive, and he's another one of those characters that, you know, gets super, super popular as soon as they come out. Red Hood has just exploded in popularity over the last few years, and this figure just makes me realize exactly why. So, #3 spot, it's gotta go to Red Hood. And the #2 spot goes to the McFarlane Toys White Knight Azrael. This is another figure that just shows what McFarlane Toys is capable of. It's got plenty of intricate sculpt, awesome details, and a really nice wash going throughout. I think this is the figure that best kind of showcases the marriage of articulation with the McFarlane Toys aesthetic and appeal. It's very statuesque, but it still moves exactly how you want it to. It's a figure that is also based on Sean Murphy's art, but I think one that a lot of DC collectors are going to happily use as their mainstay Azrael in their DC collection. It's one that I absolutely recommend everyone to get. It's just a super sick looking figure, and I really, really love it. And taking the #1 spot on the top 10 McFarlane Toys figures of 2020, it's of course the Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn. Was there ever any doubt? McFarlane Toys is of course the house that Spawn built, so it's only right that a Spawn figure should be the one on top of the list. I of course have bought multiples of this figure, which is something I almost never do. I usually buy one version of a figure and then I stick with that, but this was one that was just too good for me to pass up. I picked up every single weapon version. I got the sword version, the mace version, and the axe version. All of them are great. I recommend any of them to anybody who wants a super articulated Spawn figure with an awesome sculpt and really cool paint. It's just really, really nice to have a Spawn figure that can pose and stand with all my other figures and look this good. It's just a figure that keeps on giving, and I've modified this figure a lot of times, but even the standard version is absolutely stellar. Well, there it is, guys, my top 10 McFarlane Toys figures of 2020. Who'd have thunk that McFarlane Toys would have put out so many awesome figures this year? That is such an incredible thing, and it only makes me more excited to see what they have coming down the line with their video game licenses and the DC license as well. Particularly figures like Red Hood, Flash, Superman, the White Knight Batman, and White Knight Azrael. They get me very, very excited to see what they have specifically for DC down the line. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate all the feedback I've been getting on my YouTube and on Instagram. It's just so encouraging to know that there are other collectors out there who love these kind of things as much as I do. So really appreciate everybody who keeps on tuning in and keeps on supporting. I love you guys. God bless, and go be yourselves.